Well, good morning. I am Nick.
I'm Mindy. It's nice to be with you this morning. Almost ready for Christmas, and I do have to say, today is Nick's birthday. Looking very young
you.
today, isn't he?
So dapper. So we want to talk with you today and encourage you to be present, especially over the next few days or few weeks with holidays. Be present with your family, with your friends, with your kids, and what that looks like. So often as I think Americans, we are tethered to our devices, and there's notifications and phone calls and whatever. And we have a tendency to kind of want to play God in our own lives. And we try to be omnipresent. We try to be everywhere at once, kind of doing a little bit of everything, always talking to sort of everyone. And that's not what God has called us to. God has called us to be not omnipresent, but to be present. Whoever we're with, He's called us to love them well. So we want to really encourage you to take real time over these next few days, holiday weeks, and spend purposeful time with your friends, with your family, and people around you.
So we've got some ideas on how to do that. So one way, Nick mentioned devices and being kind of tethered at times to those. So one way you can physically do that is to turn your phone off or turn your notifications off. You don't need to have your Facebook notifications on or your Twitter, Instagram, whatever you follow. You don't need to have those on. Even if you just took an hour a day and turned those off and focused. But physically turn those off and move your phone to another room so that you're not with it all the time and being distracted by it, because you know if it's something that's around, it will be a distraction. So that's one practical way to do that.
Yeah, and I think being purposeful in choosing to do things, maybe if you're single and have parents around, spend time with your parents. Ask them questions about their life before you existed and find out, try to hunt for some stories that you didn't know were around. And I think you might be surprised at what we can learn about people that we've known and loved for years if we really invest in them and come up with some good questions to get to know them better than we already do. Don't assume we already know everything about everyone.
Yeah, like I told Nick, this past year I found out that my dad went on this crazy fishing trip up in Canada when he was young and single with some of his other guy friends, and they all just got dropped off and couldn't fit, they weren't finding anything, and then finally their guide gave them some advice after getting something, anyway. But just some funny stories about my dad that I've grown up my whole life, I've known my dad, and I didn't know that about him. And we just had a friend of ours had their 50th wedding anniversary, and so on that day we had them come over. We couldn't have a big thing, but we had interview questions that the kids had, and we took turns asking questions and found out some great things, like how did you weather the hard times in your 50 years? What were some of the funny stories? And so we took that time to really get to know. So you might want to even write some questions down. And if you can't be together physically, even if you're calling them, not just like, hey, Mom, Dad, I wanted to say happy, Merry Christmas. Have a purpose and an agenda and get to know them a little better.
Yeah. So that's our encouragement to you, to spend time and focus on people around you and work to love them well as God has called us to by investing in them. You've got kids.
Play Legos.
Play
just
Legos
do
with
what they
them.
want to.
Yeah. Do the Christmas stuff. Make cookies and decorate them in ridiculous ways. And who cares if they look good or not? So what? That's not the goal. The goal is to be with your kids, be with your spouse, be with your family, be with your friends, and represent Christ well in their lives.
Yes. So don't be omnipresent. Be present this Christmas.
And have a good one.